So let's start with today's topic, and then today I will give you also a brief introduction to one very basic object creation um, in the system as well. So we will cover couple of other additional topics which I feel are relevant for you to understand. It would help you in giving you the overall you know end-to-end understanding of the platform and set of softwares. So from knowledge perspective, it would definitely help you out to have a couple of additional topics which we are covering today. Okay, so knowledge about these topics would be definitely beneficial. So let's start with introduction to HANA. I believe you might be aware that you guys have enrolled the course called as BW for HANA, right? And I'm not sure how much you got a chance to look into the topic of HANA as such. Maybe any one of you, can you tell me anything about HANA? What do you know about HANA? Like, if you know anything, that is good. If you don't know also, that's okay. Basically, it is exclusive software of SAP. It's actually a database. So as such, I'm not talking about BW for HANA. I'm talking about just the HANA as such. So there is a database of SAP. Its name is HANA, High Performance Analytics Engine. So what it does is, this is a compared to your Oracle databases or SQL or other databases, this has got a couple of different features which are very powerful with regards to functionalities and speed and the performance. That's the reason it is very popular, and SAP is gradually steering away from all the other databases to its own proprietary database, HANA database. So what is HANA? We will learn in detail. But if you have to simplify, simply mention it in very layman terms, you can say that it's a type of software which is classified as a database application. Like Oracle has got its own database, or MS SQL has got, MS SQL has got its database, or IBM DB2 was another database application. Even Microsoft Simple Access was a database type of software. So likewise, there are plenty of databases in the market, but SAP also had previously, I can't remember out of my head what was the name of the database, but SAP had MaxDB, I think, yes. SAP also had a database previously released its own proprietary database called as MaxDB, but now SAP has got a different version of database called as SAP HANA. So the way this HANA database works is very interesting, and it's very unique in terms of the usage. Okay, so let's see further slides to it. Okay, so who can learn HANA? What is HANA? Why SAP HANA? Evolution, architecture, history, all those things we will go through in the slides. So there are lots of slides I want to cover. I don't, because these are like additional topics I am covering it. So I don't want to spend too much time on this. I will share these slides in the future. So we will have to move on quickly to the core topics of BW for HANA. So probably either today and tomorrow I would like to finish whatever is the additional topics which are there. The supplementary topics are I want to cover it. So we'll just there are lots of slides in the slide deck. It is mainly for your reference. I'm not going to cover each slide in word by word or line by line. I will just try to give you the gist of the slide and then give you a summary of the actual content which is there. Okay, so if you have any doubts or anything, you can feel free to stop me and ask. But for the time being, even though if you feel that there are a few things which you don't understand or does not make sense to you, just simply ignore it, and then over a period of time you would then once we do the actual few of the additional topics, then you can correlate what these things are. Okay, so now what is SAP HANA? SAP HANA is an in-memory column oriented relational database management system. Okay, these are the two things. If you can understand these two things, I think probably you would have understood 80% of the HANA database itself. So just two things. One is it's an in memory, and second one is it's a column oriented. Obviously, the database has to be qualified as a fully powerful database. It has to be a relational database. Relational database has got some chord rules, 12, and then normalization rules. So these are the few things which are there related to relational databases. I don't want to get into those what those chord rules are, or what is RDBMS, but simply understand that a relational database is something wherein you can have data references into multiple places. Okay, that's related. The database, the tables, the information is related across multiple tables or multiple streams. You have referential integrity and references across multiple tables. Like you have a concept of something called as a primary key and foreign key relationship in a relational database. Okay, so now HANA is also a database like Oracle, as I mentioned just now. Now, what's the differentiation factor here is it is in-memory database. Let's understand what do you mean by in-memory database. Okay, this is very important for you to understand, and this is the core strength of SAP HANA. So typically, okay, okay, first let's understand what is referred as in-memory. In-memory here is referred to RAM in the computer. I'm not sure whether you guys are familiar with the RAM and hard disk, processor, motherboard. So these are the components of a laptop or a computer, right? So what does RAM do? It captures the caching options. RAM stands for random access memory. Okay. Even in your cell phones, we have RAM these days. The laptops have got RAM. Even other applications, wherever you have some sort of processing, there is a RAM. RAM is, fast memory, which is reusable, which is only uh, holding the data for a temporary period of time. Okay, as soon as the system is switched off or the cache data is wiped off, the data from the RAM gets lost. But whereas if you have a hard drive or physical drive in the laptop, there the data gets stored permanently. Okay, so typically when we do an operation in a particular system, what used to happen was okay, uh, the transactions gets recorded into a database. Okay, where is the database? Okay, database is something wherein you have a data. So this is your uh, database. Database typically is nothing but is a collection of tables, I would say. Usually the data is stored in the structured format. Typically these days there are unstructured databases as well, like MongoDB and others, but majority of the times uh, we have structured tables or structured data in the database. And when you refer to structured data, uh, the data is usually in the form of tables, and a table contains, like, what. So if I want to insert a table here, table contains what, like, rows and columns. So if you see a table, say that this is a customer table, say it has got, say, cust ID, say cust name, and say amount, outstanding balance, or overdue, say he's having overdue amount. Okay, now customer is C001 and his name is A. His overdue amount is, say, $1,000 amount in dollars. His name is B, is $2,000. There's another customer C, and his say $5,000. Okay. So now the data which is typically stored in a database, assume that this table name is called as a customer table, and this table is there in something called as a schema. So a database will have first at a root level a concept or an entity called as a schema, and then schema has got tables and other objects like structures and procedures and so on. Okay. So but in a database, the core component of a database is a database table, and here is where the actual information gets resided or persisted. Now when we talk about a database in a system, this table, say the table name here is customer table. Okay. So here this is a customer table, and this customer table is okay. So this customer table is created in a database. Now where is it stored? This table is in database, and this database typically, I'm talking about a generic database, is capturing the information in the physical memory, physical disk, or hard disk drive. Okay. HDD. Here is where the actual data gets resided, and from there, from the hard disk, we then retrieve the information back whenever we want to access the information about a particular customer. Suppose if you create a report on top of it, or if you create a query on top of this particular table, then the query tries to fetch information from the hard disk drive and try to retrieve the information. Okay. Now if you compare between hard drive and a RAM, whatever is there in the cache memory is something which is there uh, in the fast memory or in the quick memory. So RAM, whatever is there in the RAM, you can retrieve it several times faster compared to retrieving the information from hard drive. Okay. So RAM stands for what? Random access memory. So the information which is captured in the RAM, we can retrieve it very, very fast compared to whatever is stored in the physical hard drive. So it would take a substantial amount of time. There is a noticeable difference between the performance when we retrieve the information which is available in RAM compared to retrieving information from the hard drive. Even though we have got fast hard drives these days, not the IDE ones, but SATA drives, still there is a significant difference when we retrieve the information from RAM. Okay. The issue with the RAM is the data is not stored permanently. Okay. So hence we didn't had the concept of using RAM for wider applications. Now, typical database like Oracle or MS SQL or MS Access or DB2, whatever you name it, these were the popular databases. And these databases, till I think last decade, they used to store the information in the hard drive. Even not only the databases, even the other applications which you use, they store the information in the hard drive, and whenever you query for that particular set of information, you have to then read that information from the physical memory, which is the hard drive. This is the hard drive. Okay. Now the challenge was retrieving would take a lot of time. Now SAP came up with an idea. I'm not sure who was the pioneer in it, but there might be somebody else from there. SAP might have copied it, or SAP brought the idea in a more organized fashion and then made it more popular. Maybe that could be another reason. But what SAP did was SAP said that, okay, now you can have the information, whatever you have in the database captured in the RAM. Okay. And you will also have information, same information. Say this table is placed in two places. One is in the RAM and another one is in the hard drive. So they have something called as a concept called as redo logs, through which whatever is stored in the RAM gets replicated in real time in the hard drive. Assume that the power gets lost, still you have the information in the hard drive, you can retrieve it back. There is another concept coming up in the market which is called as NVRAM, non-volatile RAM. In this non-volatile RAM, the data doesn't get lost even though if there is a power cutoff. Okay, that's again a further improvement in the RAM space. Okay, let's not get into the nitty-gritties of it. Now, what happens in HANA database is that the data, assume that this table, this information of this particular table, customer table, the entire table information is there available in RAM, as well as it gets, replicated in real time in hard drive as well. So it is there in two places. But whenever we query it, all our search engines, they look for information and get it and retrieve it from RAM. So whenever a query is triggered, the information is first, searched by that query engine at this place. If it is not available here, probably then if the entire HANA database is not replicated, then it would go for here to find the data from the HANA database. Now, the concept of HANA database is that SAP is suggesting us to take the complete snapshot of the entire database into RAM, which means that you are trying to replicate whatever information is available in the hard drive of the database to be available in the RAM as well. The benefit is the data gets access faster. That is first thing. So this type of this type of accessing the data, or this type of availability of data at both the places, RAM and hardware, hard drive, is called as in-memory computing or in-memory database. So it's actually referred to as information which is there in memory. This is called as memory, random access memory. So it is called as in-memory computing. Okay, so SAP HANA is a in-memory database where the information is captured or contained in RAM all the time in real time. The complete database snapshot is taken and it gets reflected here. That is first thing. Now, I said out of the complete slide deck and everything, if you want to understand HANA, just understand only three things. First thing is I'm just talking about HANA. I'm not talking about BW for HANA. Don't get confused with BW for HANA. Okay. BW for HANA is a separate application. I'm talking about just the native HANA. It is sometimes also referred to as native HANA as well, or HANA DB. Whatever in my context in today's session right now, I'm focusing more on HANA database. DB stands for database. Now, what is HANA database? It's a database product by SAP. First thing, HANA is a database. First thing. Second thing is HANA is an in-memory database, which means that the information of the database is also available in the in-memory. Okay, that is second thing. So to get that, to achieve in-memory database, see what SAP suggested is that you go for your database servers wherein you have to have huge volume of random access memory, RAM. Now this was only possible because RAM became cheaper and then the organizations could afford it. Now what it does is, say the database size is even these days, even we can also purchase it. Not, we don't even need to work for go for a big companies, but even for personal use also, these days we can afford to put extremely large volume of random access memory in our systems. So assume that if the database size is 1 TB, then you need to have at least 1 TB or 2 TB of RAM in your system, so that the complete snapshot of the database can be captured into the RAM. Okay, that is first thing. So when you talk about in memory, your in memory server has to have a large or a very big volume of RAM capacity. It has to have uh, almost similar capacity of the database minimum, not similar, but at least maybe 30-40% or 50% bigger size than the database size. Assume that your database is 500 GB, then your RAM also should be like 700 plus GB or 1000 GB or maybe 500 plus GB. So this is something which you need to understand, that these systems are very powerful. When we talk about in-memory servers, in-memory systems, they are very big powerful systems. In that case, there is also concept of archiving. You don't capture the complete snapshot of the database. You capture only the information which you feel that um, is something called as commonly used or more widely used. Now, apart from that, there is also a concept of dynamic tiering or data tiering optimization as well. So your database, as I said, it can in this example, I have mentioned that if the information is not available here, your search engine pointer will point to the hard drive and try to retrieve information from the HANA database dataset, which is available in the hard drive. So it is not necessary that the entire database data has to be available in the RAM. Assume that your database grows very rapidly, exponentially. These days, even organization data grows at a very massive pace, and it might be very likely that the database is much larger in size compared to the RAM size. It could be very likely possible. Then in those cases, what they do is, if the information is not retrieved in the RAM, it will go and search in the hard drive. If it is available there, it will retrieve the information from there. Even though if it is not there in the primary server hard drive, sometimes they take the backup of the data into the archiving drives. These days, instead of archiving drives, they are using other technologies to archive it, like big data systems, wherein the information is kept in some other external system, and that can be connected to this particular system, and the information can be retrieved in real time as well. That concept is called as dynamic tiering or data tiering optimization. We will look into that as well, wherein the data is scattered across multiple systems. So that is also feasible. I'm talking about something which is external, not even to the HANA system, but there is something which is another system B in which you have the information. So you can retrieve from system B as well into system A query, in case if they have you know connection to access the information between both the systems. So there is a concept of DTO. We will look into it. Okay. So first thing about HANA is you understood that it is a database. Second thing is it's a in-memory database, means that the vast majority of the information which is frequently used is captured into the HANA database. Ideally speaking, they try to do everything, but if they can't, then they will try to capture the frequently used data set from the database and uh, and bring the snapshot into the HANA database memory, in memory, that is in memory. Second thing which is very beautiful about this particular uh, database, HANA database, is it uses concept of something called as columnar data sets. We have heard or seen that this information here is always you know captured row wise. Okay, so there is information, there is a way wherein we can capture the information the column wise as well. I will show in the subsequent slide what does it mean. So that would also minimize the data set duplication. that would bring some enhancements and efficiencies to the way the data is accessed by a database query. Okay, so these are the two things. If you understand that HANA is a database, it's in-memory database wherein it supports both. It supports row-wise as well as column-wise data access mechanism. So it supports both row and column. Okay, that is about all about HANA. Okay, let's deep dive into official definition, and from now on, from this slide onwards, for remainder of this particular topic slides, I'm just going to quickly skip a lot of content. Okay, later you can go through it, and then if you find any doubts at a later stage, please feel free to ask. Okay, um, but if you understood this much, whatever I have said so far, I think you have understood maybe 80% of the concepts of the HANA database. Okay, now, as I said, this is again repetitive. HANA is an in-memory column-oriented relational database system. At the core of HANA is the high-performance analytics in-memory database. HANA is in-memory platform which supports the acid compliance. So acid is actually not the acid which you use to clean the stuff or in the chemicals, but acid is the property of the database. It's a acronym used in the database terminology. ACID stands for, A stands for atomicity, consistency, isolation, and database durability. Okay, so atomicity in the sense, unless and until a transaction is committed, saved, the database will not read that information. Say, assume that you are creating a new entry in the system, but you haven't saved it. It is still in the halfway through, and you search for the new information. Until and unless someone saves that information, database doesn't capture that information in the database. That is nothing but the atomicity. Consistency means the data has to be consistent. Assume that the information is scattered across 3 different tables. Even though you look for the same information in table A or table B or table C, it has to show same values. For instance, if your database contains your information about your date of birth at 3 different places, then it has to show the same date of birth across all the tables. It cannot show different values in different tables. Okay, that is about consistency. Isolation is the data has to be isolated. You should be able to access the data whatever you feel is needed. There shouldn't be much dependency in accessing the data in isolation, and it has to be durable. Means that you need to be able to access it for a long time. Okay, now we will not go through all this additional stuff which are there in the HANA. It can do lots of stuff with the HANA database. Why there is so much of buzz about HANA database? As Rakesh mentioned in his explanation, it is mainly improving, speed. So you are able to access the database at a very fast, rapid speed, which you could not even have imagined if you would have not used in-memory computing database. Okay, so due to which it is widely being used across, HANA database is widely being used across lots of other applications, SAP applications as well. Okay, and the benefit is whenever the information in that particular system is retrieved, it gets reflected very fast. Its response time is very quick. Now this is something about evolution of HANA, how the HANA database came into picture. Again, as I said, I don't want to get into each year and show you like what, but in general, understand that the concept of HANA they thought very early on, around 15 years ago from now, but it picked up, I believe, mostly after 2011, and then actual HANA implementation is happening, I think, from last 2-3 years only. Prior to that, it was just a buzz, and then people were also very skeptical to either to go for it or not. But real usage is happening in last 2-3 year onwards. There are lots of versions flavors to the HANA which has came up, and along with the HANA as a database, which came in the which was the concept in the mid 2015 years ago. The application is now HANA as a database is being used widely used in other applications as well, like S4 HANA, which is ERP system. BW for HANA is a BW system, and success factors and lots of other systems which is using HANA as a in-memory database. Here's a bit of very interesting history about HANA, how HANA came into picture, what was the thought process. Again, probably when I share the slides with you, and when you get a chance, you read it, you will enjoy it. Okay, HANA platform, what it does, it does lots of activities, and it has got some of the other functionalities as well. As we are doing BW for HANA, I don't want to confuse you or scare you too much into HANA database itself. So for us, understand that our BW system is using, rather than Oracle database or SQL database or DB2, it is using HANA as a database in BW for HANA, due to which the the processing time to retrieve the information, to generate a query, to execute a query, to load the data has significantly improved. SAP gives some, I'm not sure how realistic they are, but SAP gives some insane numbers like 50,000 times the performance is improved, 20,000 times. So there are like extremely big comparative numbers, which I don't think is true as well. But again, that is what SAP claims, that it is very faster. Okay, so these are the few of the things which HANA does. It has got its own libraries, and it has got its own application server. In short, we know that the data can be stored in row and column fashion wise. Apart from that, it has got its own administration, security, multiple tenancy, and so on. Okay. Again, it's repetitive of what I have said. Okay, and the language which is used typically to access the HANA database is SQL. So it uses SQL language. There is a difference now. Now in HANA we use SQL, whereas we use another language in our traditional SAP, which is OpenSQL language, which is used by ABAP. So it's advanced business application programming. So ABAP uses OpenSQL, whereas HANA uses the SQL script. So there is something different, but I will explain later stage what's the difference between OpenSQL and normal SQL. Okay. Again, this is another picture of the capabilities which a HANA system can do. Really don't need to break your head. Skip on. Okay. At its core, HANA is a database. Okay. That is what we need to understand. Okay. And then what HANA did is, though it is a database, it brought some improvements to the capabilities of a database. See, so far database, what they used to do was, there used to be a database server, and database server used to get connected to an application server. So whenever we write a query, the application server, depending on the database which is chosen, used to bring the information from the database. Okay, probably this might sound slightly confusing. I'll just show you a very quick picture, and with this you might be able to understand very quickly. Too much of information here. Okay. So when SAP launched R3, SAP said that it is such a powerful and beautiful system that you don't have to have dependency on a particular software. It is operating system independent. it is database independent. That is what SAP mentioned when they launched its SAP R3 server. R3 stands for three-tier architecture, and in the three-tier architecture, we have three layers where the information is, presented and accessed. So we have presentation server, application server, and database server. So database server, SAP said that you can go for any database, whatever database you want, you can use with our SAP application. So here database contains the information in the database. Application server is where the actual applications, SAP applications were built and they were presented to the presentation servers. These were three different machines. Now with the XSA architecture, the job of application server and database server is combined into one machine, and that came because of the concept of something called as extend server architecture with HANA support pack 5 onwards. So I can't remember exactly which year support pack 5 was released, but because of that, what SAP said was, okay, you don't need to have a separate application server. You can have both in 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 one, which is HANA database. Okay, so you can have both in one, and this is part of, so this is part of HANA database. So in the HANA database itself, you have a concept of application server and the database server, and they are both combined in the HANA database. That is why it is called as HANA XSA, extended server architecture, XSA. So in short, I would say that SAP has brought lots of innovations and improvements to its database. And with that database improvements, you are able to do a lot more tasks than just retrieving the information from the database. So SAP's approach in bringing the data uh, from the database significantly improved, due to which, you know, you have lots of I would say HANA database adoption by other applications. So there's a lots of information which is there here. So this is a HANA database. It has got, with the data engines, you can access lots of things which were not possible in the previous databases. It supports both. MDX is I think multi-dimension exchange as well. So it's a approach similar to SQL script only. It's not much different.
Oh, okay.
But we widely use SQL only. I mean to say, like, its adoption in the BI space is increasing, and having knowledge of SQL would definitely be beneficial, especially when you want to use embedded analytics and ABAP managed database procedures and so on. But as such, in BW for HANA, we really, I mean to say, like, don't have to worry too much, because the HANA Studio allows you to create the objects without needing to code or write programming. Okay, so without needing to do that, you can do lots of stuff directly using graphical user interface options. Okay, so with the XSA, we have lots of benefits, and then the concept of having the separate application server is not needed anymore with the wide usage of XSA architecture of HANA. Now, in short, again, this is very looks like very scary, but I prepared this slide for the previous batch. So what I'm saying here is, in this particular slide, in my slide, I'm saying that, okay, this is the HANA database, okay, which is native HANA. You have a separate ABAP application layer. Okay, using the SQL command, you access the information from the database. Using the ABAP language, you can access information via ABAP application server. Okay, And how you can use, there is something called as ABAP perspective in the HANA Studio. So when we look into the HANA Studio, you have HANA Studio is a thick client, or it's a software you need to have on your machine to access the HANA database. Okay, to perform the BW operations, you need this. It's a it's a additional complementary software in addition to SAP GUI. Till date, before BW for HANA and HANA database concepts were introduced, we used to have a graphical user interface application, small application, which we need to install on our local machine, that used to allow us to access SAP system. Now, along with the GUI, you also need to have something called as HANA Studio installed on your application, on your local machine, to access that information. Now, if you don't have HANA Studio, these days we also have a new concept called as Web IDE, Web ID, using which also you can access it. So that is another concept. So I think we will look into this slide when we look into the system. Okay. Who can learn HANA? Anybody who has got a basic SQL skills, they can learn HANA. People from the BW background, they can learn. People from ABAP background, because they know OpenSQL, they can learn HANA. Major advantages: it's fast, simple, as simple as that. The access to information is fast. It is more reliable and quick. See, in traditional model, the information, when you run a report, the report or a query search engine, they used to fetch information from RAM to hard drive. So the information was usually, uh, uh, you know, retrieved from the RAM. Whereas in SAP HANA, we only have the complete information in the RAM. Hence, you are avoiding additional layer of uh, interaction here in this particular HANA database. Hence, it is uh, significantly faster compared to your traditional database approach. These are the applications we used to use before. Now this is HANA. Why choose HANA? For these are the reasons, like real-time, speed, cost, cloud-based, so on. Okay. Summary of SAP HANA is an in-memory database. HANA components. So we will now jump into SAP HANA Studio, create one object, and then call it a day today. Okay. History of HANA, appliances, in-memory computing, certified hardware solutions. These are the different vendors who also sell a complete appliance, HANA appliance. Okay. Uh, Again, in HANA, we have a application versus the tailored data center. HANA appliance is the standard HANA system given by SAP partner vendor, whereas the tailored data center application is tailored according to the business usage. Here it's like a more like a in the HANA appliance, it's more like a generic system for all the clients. Here, based on the client specific requirement, the information can be tailor-made to suit their needs. Obviously, that comes with a cost as well, additional cost. Okay. Now, standard SAP HANA, you have got storage, operating system, hardware, database, and then schema. Under the schema, you have all the tables and other information. Okay. This is how the standard deployment option for SAP HANA. I don't get into the virtualization partitioning because we are not going to do that in BW now. So what is relevance of HANA database to BW for HANA is that our current software, which we are learning, BW for HANA supports only HANA database. It doesn't support any other databases apart from HANA database. So lots of information, they are not even relevant. And there was concept of HANA Live. It's not there anymore. It was like standard content, BI content in HANA. We will see that now this topic we will do it tomorrow, introduction to S4HANA. Today, before we wrap up, we will just quickly jump into the system. I want to give you a feel of the system, how the system would look like, how you would access the system, what is the way. I'm not sure when you will get it, maybe this week or next week, you would get access to the system as well. So the way we access is ZaranTech takes, I believe, server access from some vendor. They in turn give us access via remote desktop. So we are accessing from our machine, our local machine, we will access someone else's desktop. And on that desktop, we have our login credentials. It will authenticate and allow us to access the information in that particular desktop. Okay. So now let's connect to RDP system, remote desktop. This is the system which is provided by ZaranTech vendor. They gave us our system access. I am trying to access the remote system of the vendor. Now, in the remote system, we have HANA Studio. Okay, so this is the remote system which I am accessing.
Okay.
For you folks, it would be very easy. It won't be that difficult. And also, you might be aware that there are lots of simplifications in the actual modeling, the objects and stuff as well. So lots of objects have been discarded in the BW for HANA. SAP tried to simplify it. So I'm pretty sure for you who has got past experience, it would be much easier. So there are few things I'm taking at a slow pace because I have to ensure that everyone understands it. For those who have never seen SAP screen, I'll just try to show you from scratch how the SAP system would look like. Before I even introduce you to SAP system, I will show you again how to access the system, remote desktop. So you will get the server details. Once you have the server details, login credentials, uh, you will connect to the remote system. Basically, now what I did is using my system.
The PPT is what is visible.
Okay, just let me change the application then. I will do a new share. Okay, so I am sharing my what do you say is remote desktop. I have changed from PPT to this. Now we don't need to see PPT anymore. We are done with the PPT. Okay, so we will see this remote desktop application. So how I logged into the system was I went to the start and I in the run MSTSC or RDP remote desktop. So if I click here, these are the server credentials. It brought me to this particular system. There is a user ID and password. You need to enter your user credentials. Once you enter, you will access the remote desktop. So basically, we are accessing SAP BW for HANA system. Okay. So whenever you get the credentials, when you access the system, typically you will get the access to the same system. So on the desktop, you have a file called as password. So here, all the passwords to your system will be mentioned here. Okay, user ID and passwords. So my first request with you would be to not to change anything because we are using the shared user ID and shared password. So I think we will use same user ID and password for every one of us. And if someone tries repeatedly entering wrong password, the user ID gets blocked, which means that not only you, but rest of the team members in the batch cannot access the system till it is resolved. So I mean, it's like it could be resolved. Someone can then contact the support team or me, or and then they will then try to contact the vendor who provides this access. So typically it has to be done through support team. So then they will unlock the password. So my request is, first, be very cautious when you use the system. Don't try to enter wrong password several times. If you do it 2 or 3 times, more than 3 times, 3 or more than 3 times, then your system gets locked. First thing. Second thing is, please do not change any settings in the system. Third thing, very important is, you whatever you want to create your objects, you create your own info area and create everything under that. Do not delete someone else's work, and do not mix your work with someone else. Try to maintain a separate folder and do all your tasks there. Now this is your system. Before SAP introduced HANA, the way we used to access SAP was SAP GUI, which is called as SAP logon pad. Okay, so with the logon pad, we used to access SAP in the previous versions of BW. Okay, SAP still gave us some functionality in this GUI based tool as well. Now these days we have to perform our activities. Few of the activities here in GUI in BW for HANA, and majority of the activities, 80-90% of the activities in the HANA Studio. So what we used to do before was this. I think our user ID would be best for all of us, and I think password would be different. This is our typical SAP BW system. Things have changed in BW for HANA, and the fundamental T code which we used to use very widely was administrative workbench, RSA1. So what is a T code? T code is a shortcut to access a particular screen. Okay, I typed something called as a RSA1. Assume that this is like a shortcut key to access a particular screen. Like in the Windows, we have lots of shortcuts, right? Control is for save, Control P for print. Likewise, assume that in SAP also we have lots of shortcuts to access different screens. In BW, these or in SAP world, these shortcuts are called as transaction codes, T codes, TCODES, T codes. Okay, so in our previous version of BW, we were using very widely this particular T code. It has got some subsections underneath it, but you would notice that for those who have been working in the BW space, there are a few things missing here. They are not there in the BW GUI. Okay, the primary object which is missing is the modeling. It is missing here.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's move on to the other tool. Now, as I said, it's a HANA database. We are not using the HANA, but we are using sorry, we are not using GUI much. We are using some other tool very widely. Okay, the other tool which we are very widely using, or the primary tool to work on BW for HANA these days, is something called as HANA Studio. Eventually, it is also getting phased out. We are moving from HANA Studio to Web IDE in the future. So this same functionality, I need to have a dedicated thick client software installed on this application. Instead of that, with the Web IDE, using the web browser, you can access the system. That is where logically the data is getting moved. Okay. Now this is a tool called as HANA Studio. there are 2-3 things which are very widely used by us as a BW folk. Okay, first thing is we have here in the system. I'm not sure whether it's visible or not, but somehow this is the screen is very small. I'm not sure how it is appearing to you, the HANA Studio. Are you able to see my screen and read the menu? Okay, good. So which is good. So you have here in the menu bar in the HANA Studio, there is something called as Windows menu, and in that I go to perspective, open perspective. I can go to other and say I want to access BW modeling perspective. So we can open a BW perspective. The same thing which I did, whatever I did through here, there is also a shortcut to do the same thing on the screen itself. So here the BW perspective is available here as well, BW modeling. Okay, the same thing is available here as well in the form of a shortcut. I have already added that into the HANA system. So basically what I am trying to say here is you want to access BW for HANA system. Okay, if you want to access BW for HANA system, you need to log into something called as BW perspective. I would say 80 to 90% of our task we do in our BW system itself. So whatever task which you were doing in your previous version of BW in RS7, we are doing the same task in HANA Studio now. Those tasks have been moved from GUI to HANA Studio. And where do we do in HANA Studio? In HANA Studio, we have multiple components. Just understand that for you, the key component would be the BW perspective or BW modeling tool. Okay, that is where you do the major task. So here I create, for the first time, if you want to create something, I can create something just to show you as well. Assume that this is a blank system. Nothing was done in the past. Just assume that this is not there. Then I go here on the right side, click new and say click on the project. Here on the project, because I want to work on the BW system, I will try to select BW. Okay, I don't want ABAP. Okay, I want to create a BW project. And then select the BW system, SAP BW for HANA, and enter the credentials for the BW for HANA system. It is the same system. And you access it. So it has created one more, one more flavor of whatever I wanted. Okay. So the BW system is accessed like this, BW repository. I don't want to have too many systems, because then there would be, if you have duplicate flavors of the same system, you will have a lot of confusion and you might, get lost. In short, there are two ways you can access the BW system. One is through ABAP based objects. Another one is for actually BW type of objects or HANA database objects. And that is ABAP perspective is for ABAP based objects. BW modeling perspective is for creating or doing the BW related task in the system. Okay. Does that make sense? Now, because I've already created the projects here, I just need to, if I'm accessing the BW system, I need to, enter the credentials, system credentials, BW system, user ID and password. User ID is best. Okay. And this is a BW system. So in the BW system, we have all our objects. All the objects which are there in the BW system is there here in something called as BW repository. So this is like your root folder in RS7. Sure, it might be looking slightly scary in the beginning, but obviously we will see this screen several times. So maybe after 2-3 times, you might get a better understanding of it. I don't expect you to learn everything, whatever I'm teaching now, as it's a video recorded session. You can also pause and look into these things at later stage as well. But what I want you to explain, understand is on a very broad level, uh, how the system would look like. That's it. I'm just trying to give you a very brief overview of uh, the system, and I will show you with the process of creating a very basic simple object called as info object. Okay, we will just create one object and then stop the session today, and then later next session I will show in detail few other objects as well, and along with that we will cover other topics as well. Okay, for us, as I said, in the BW space we do a lot of work. We do a lot of objects creation. All our objects, whatever we create, are usually accessed via this place. Okay, so we come here, we access the BW perspective, browse to BW repository, and then in the repository, the ideal way is to create your own folder. So whenever you do some work, assume that in your office, if you are working on a SharePoint portal, then or say shared drive, and you don't want others to disturb you, or you want your data to be secluded, then you can create a folder and capture all your information in your folder rather than putting the information in the generic folder wherein someone might retrieve your information, delete it, or corrupt it, whatever it is. But whereas if you have the information in your folder, then you know that all your information is at one place. Likewise, in BW also, depending on the reporting requirements, depending on the business requirements, depending on the project requirements, we create an object which is similar to folder. And this object in BW terminology is called as info area. Okay, so you need to learn this. We will learn it. I mean to say, like, we will discuss and understand what is an info area. So the first thing which we try to do when we create objects in the system, especially in the HANA Studio, is create an info area. I just created an info area today. Uh, Z Z is for custom objects. I don't want to get into the naming convention at this stage. I will explain it maybe in the next class. I just gave a technical name and a description. The technical name is ZIA underscore ZT ZaranTech 2 is the second batch. Okay, so this is my folder. I would prefer all of you to create your info areas under this info area itself rather than creating separate here. So it might get lost. Create all your objects under this info area, ZIA underscore ZT2, and then create your objects underneath that. So what we will do is, this is the info area I created. Just to show you how to create an info area, I select this info area ZIA underscore ZT2. I go right click there, say new, and here look for an object called as info area. Do you see somewhere as info area? I don't want to navigate, but I want you to find out where it is. It is below which object or above which object? Where is info area here?
It is below document store.
Correct. So here is the info area below document store. What I do is I select that option info area. It is, as I said, in simple terms, in layman terms, it is equivalent of a folder. Okay, I am creating my own subfolder under the main folder. So for this batch, our main folder is ZIA underscore ZT2 ZaranTech2, and in this Z for custom, IA for info area. Okay, I am creating a info area just for you to understand. It's a test. I'm not sure whether there is a test here or not, but test IA, test info area, and finish. So I just created an info area. It is available. Let's see. Yes, it is here. Okay. So the info area is created. In this particular info area test, I want to create an object. So there is a fundamental basic object which I want to create here. And the object is called as info object. Info object is the building block in the database BW world. So I will create now a very simple object, a characteristic info object called as info object. Info object is nothing but a field of a table. If you see, if you remember, I have mentioned in the previous class, the data is classified into key figures and characteristics. So the key figure data is like amount, quantity, price, tax, GST. All these are the key figures. Whereas the characteristic data sets are like customer, product, vendor, material. Okay, all these are the characteristic data sets. Likewise, I want to create one characteristic. Say for instance, I want to create an object called as customer. Okay, so in this particular info area in my folder, I want to create an object. I say right click and I want to create an info object. So whenever I want to create a new object, I just have to select new. As soon as you hover on the new, the side what do you say, menu gets open, and there you can look for your relevant object which you want to create. Here in this case, I want to create info object. Do you see in this particular menu say, an option to create info objects? Here we have something called as an info object. So we are creating an info object. Info object is nothing but we are creating a very simple field. This field or a characteristic in BW. Okay. Eventually we will use these fields to build our info cubes, but here we don't have a concept of info cubes, we have a concept of ADSOs. So to create ADSOs and composite providers, we need these info objects. So there are two ways of creating the info objects. First is we create the custom info objects. Second is we can use SAP delivered standard info objects as well. We will learn about that at a later stage, but right now we will see how we can create a custom info object. Okay, so I go here. You can create anywhere, but just to tidy up in the project environment in the real time, in the system will allow you to create it anywhere. You can create in the root folder as well, but we need to learn some project formalities. I want you to get used to the nomenclature and the environment, the way we operate. So what would happen is whenever you create your object under this folder, I know that which student has created what. And what I would prefer you to do is when you create your object, say James, you create it like this, ZIA_James. Okay, sometimes the technical name does not allow you to have more than 8 characters. Okay, but I think you can create JAMS like that. Okay, if in the technical name, but in the description you can give a full name. Okay, info area for James. Okay, likewise. So once you have all your info areas under this particular folder, then whenever I want to see which student has built what objects, I can understand. And if you have any queries, then you can easily search and browse your objects. If you create your objects in 5 different folders, and if you have a query, then you have to look under 5 folders to search for your objects. But if you have all your objects in one folder and you have it in an organized fashion, then looking for information becomes much easier. So my preference, you can obviously, system will allow you to create anywhere. My preference would be that all of you create your objects with your own name, and please do not work in other person's info areas. Treat it as a very serious requirement and build all your objects, develop or create all your objects under your own info area only. Is it clear? How do we create it? I will show you again. Very simple. I know that this is my info area test. Okay, so under this test, I go right click. If instead of test, if I just click it here, then the object will get created at the folder level, this folder level. I don't want at this folder level. I want at under this folder level, I underscore test. So select test, create an info area. So first thing you need to do is when you do it, come and create an info area. Once you create the info area, right click the info area and then create the objects, whatever objects you want to create. Create all your objects, even for this class and the subsequent classes till you finish the batch, all your objects under your info area only. If you want to create sub info areas, go ahead and create, but create all your sub info areas under your main info area. So if you want to create subfolders, create subfolders, but under your main folder only. Don't create outside your main folder. Okay. Now I am creating an info object. Select the info area, right click new, say ZIOC. I'm saying info object characteristic type, say customer CS. Okay. So I'm saying here description as customer info object. Okay. And here the characteristic is uh, by default the info object type. I will explain about the additional, you know, options later. I don't want to show you too many options and make you confused. Let's keep it very simple now. I am creating a field. So this field I can use in any of the tables in future. This field I can use it in OpenODS views. I can use in ADSOs. I can use in composite providers. I can use moving on in the queries as well in the system. Okay. Once I create this info object, I give the name and description. I have to select what type of object is this, what type of field. Is it a characteristic field or is it is a key figure? Apart from characteristic and key figure, we have unit and extra long info object that we will see it at a later stage what these options are. But the primary objects which we usually create in the system are characteristics and key figures. So as I said, this is a characteristic info object. I have selected the characteristic info object, data type as char string. Okay. Numc, there are different data types. We will learn about the data types as well at a later stage. But default say that it's a characteristic info object, characteristic type, string type is the data type. And then click on finish. Once you click on finish, it will take you to another screen. Here you can also select other additional options. As I said, there are lots of options. I don't want to make it too complicated. I want to keep it very simple. So there are, once you click on this info object, there are three different tabs: general, BI, clients, and extended. Okay. All these three tabs are there. It has got its own additional features, but I don't want you to worry about this. Just once you have this here, I think you are done. The size of the info object is 5 characteristics, which means that if you want to give the customer ID, you can say C0000 or C0001, only 5 characters in length. You can't give the customer name as customer ID. So this is a customer ID info object. So you can't give customer ID as C followed by 10 letters. It is not feasible. Okay. Once you have this, on the top of it, you have something called as options to check and activate the objects. Okay. So first thing is, do you see here? Check BW object. Okay. Control S. So we have the same options here: save, check, and activate. So first thing is, before you activate any objects in the database, you need to check the object status. I click on the check option, and once the object is checked, then I can click on the activate object. Okay. Once I activate it, here it will become green. See, the object was not green here. Now it became green, means that this object is activated. Now, if you see here under this, there would be a characteristic folder, and under that folder, you can see this folder was not there. Though I created one folder, because you have created an info object of type characteristic, a folder was created automatically by default. System creates a new folder, and under that folder it will dump all the characteristic objects which you are going to create. So all your future objects as well will get stored here in this, if they are of type characteristic. If they are of type key figure, then another folder will get created called as key figure, and under the key figure folder you will see all your key figures in the system. So now you have seen the way to create a basic characteristic info object in BW for HANA. This is one of the simplest start. Likewise, we will see other options one by one in our subsequent classes. Okay. Now it's very important for you to understand that overall, what we try to do is we try to achieve a particular objective. Okay. I will tell you what that objective would be in the next session. And then based on that objective, we will try to create the objects in the system. Okay. Okay, then we will stop the session today now.